name is Madhura+Belani. I head product and marketing at Bill+to+Mobile. As far as my background goes, I've been in alternative payment space for past 10 years. Prior to Bill+to+Mobile, I was at OfferPal. I don't know if you guys have heard of OfferPal. Now it's called TapJoy. So I built the payments platform and integrated with over 20 alternative payments providers. And before OfferPal, I was at PayPal. Yesterday, Richard Krohn showed a page where when a user goes through a PayPal checkout, the user is shown, are you sure you don't want to use bank account? Are you really sure, really sure? So I was part of the product team that was responsible for steering the users from credit card to bank accounts. So what I'm going to talk about today is alternative payments as a whole space. You know, we've had some really thought-provoking presentations on mobile wallets, mobile marketing, mobile payments. I'm going to take a step back and talk about online alternative payments and share my experience of working with many of those. But before that, I'd like to talk about Bill+to+Mobile, give you guys a quick background of Bill+to+Mobile and our strategic partner, Danal Korea. Now, like Vipul mentioned, you know, developers, those they see a value in integrating with carriers for billing, you know, they don't want to do it at an individual basis. So that's where Bill+to+Mobile comes into picture. We leverage our connections with all the top tier carriers in the US and give a one-stop integration to the developers. So we launched our platform in May of 2010 with Verizon, and then in next 18 or so months integrated with the rest of the top 4 carriers. Our strategic investor, Danal Korea, pioneered the space of carrier billing in Korea about 11 years ago. They've been processing billions of transactions with thousands of merchants. And you know, their platform, they have a proven technology that has been processing transactions for over a decade. Danal has also expanded into China and Taiwan. You know, we see some very interesting trends in Korea. You know, it's very fascinating to see how carrier billing has been so well adopted in Korea. So of all the user population that does online purchases or, you know, buys stuff, 80% of Korea, 80% of that population has used Danal. Of all the digital goods that are purchased online, 60% of those are charged to the carrier bill. You know, one of the stats that I find very fascinating over here is the growth that we are seeing in carrier billing being used for physical goods. In 2010, Danal saw about 20% of their transactions were for physical goods, and now in last year, it grew to 34%. You know, the physical goods that they see traction in are flower delivery, book purchases, pizza delivery, and they're also getting into the retail space. As you can see, we processed over 2 billion transactions in Korea. You know, I thought I'll give you a quick overview of how the user flow works. One of the key advantages of carrier billing is that user doesn't have to go to a website, create an account, create a username, password, register, right? So the user has already created an account with the carrier. By virtue of having a handset, the user already has an account with the carrier. So we want to leverage that. So the way the user flow works is user goes on a merchant website, you know, sees a Bill+to+Mobile payment mark, or, you know, we'll just see carrier logos or, you know, bill to carrier text on the payment wall. You know, they come to our flow, the user is shown what is being purchased, you know, what's the purchase amount, and is asked to enter the carrier, their phone number. We ask the user to agree to terms of condition, and then we go ping, we do some screening on our system, ping the carrier database, you know, determine if the carrier needs additional information. In some cases, the carrier asks that we do ask the user to enter the zip code. So we prompt the user to enter the zip code, ping the carrier, validate the zip code, figure out if the user is eligible for carrier billing, and then to verify, to validate that the user is in fact in possession of the handset, we send an SMS with a 4-digit code to the user and ask the user to enter that 4-digit PIN onto the website. And then that's it, the purchase is done. So this is how the purchase works on the website, on online, browser-based application. If the user is making a purchase on a mobile browser, we can further leverage our integration with the carrier and get the phone number from the carrier network. So in this example, when user starts the purchase flow, we have gone to through the carrier network, figured out the phone number from where the request is coming, show that to the user. All we do is get the user's opt-in, and that's it. So it's a very streamlined, optimized, one-page checkout process. So now, let's get back to the sort of the main topic of the presentation, alternative payments. As you all know, the alternative payments is a very crowded space. Every few weeks there is new company popping up, somebody getting funded. So how do we sort of make sense of this crowded space? Or maybe let's get started with defining what an alternative payment is. So the way I see alternative payments is a provider that adds a value over the traditional credit card, debit card rails to cater to the top 3 concerns or the factors that users care for while making a choice of a payment provider. It's security, convenience, and control. Some providers, completely skip the credit card rails and have an alternative method of letting users make a purchase online. If you are a merchant, with so many providers here, if you are a merchant, you're very sort of inundated by, which provider do you go with? How does one provider compare with the other provider? And if you're only using credit card, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you've got to integrate to one or many of these alternative payments providers. So here's a simple framework that I have, presented. The way I see all these providers, I categorize them into online wallets, carrier billing, landline billing, prepaid or cash, bank payments, and a new category that has come up in past 4 to 5 years is the incentivized offer space. The spiral in the middle basically shows that the boundaries of all these providers is getting fuzzier. For example, PayPal, with Zong acquisition is doing carrier billing. A lot of the landline billing are getting into the carrier billing space. To sort of further research these categories, here's a very simple framework that I use to evaluate various providers. How does the payment work from the consumer perspective? How do you evaluate various providers that seem to be providing a similar services, and how do the economics work? What are the fees? So, yesterday, we did a show of hands, and I think everyone here knows about PayPal, has used it, and has a PayPal account. How many here knows about Click and Buy or Skrill? Do you use it? Right? With so many options, how does a merchant decide which one to integrate with? If you have integrated with PayPal, do you also integrate with Click and Buy? So, the 3 points that I've listed over here, what's the, how many number of users does this online wallet have? That's one criteria to figure out. You cannot beat PayPal numbers with, over 100 million users. Some of the other ones, have fewer user base. Country coverage. In the US, if you've covered PayPal, that's pretty much it. But if you're looking for to capture payments from your user base in Europe, in Latin America, or in Asia, then you need to look at the other payment providers. Click and Buy, money bookers have a wider coverage of payment options internationally. And the rates vary with the payment method that gets used. Typically PayPal is able to leverage the funding optimization that they do with bank balance, their own credit card, and they're able to provide a better rate than a merchant would get if they were to go directly. The second category I have over here is bank. The way many of the online bank checkout options work is it's required that the user has an online account. The user sees a payment mark, in some cases Interact or Secure Vault payments on the merchant website. The user is asked to enter their online credentials, and the payment is then pushed from, is authorized by their online bank and is pushed from their online bank to the merchant's bank account. It's one of the cheapest ways to make a purchase. The biggest challenge I see in these payments, especially the bank payment getting adopted in the US, is the concern around security and the level of comfort that the users have in the US to use their bank account for online purchases. Some of the merchants that Secure Wallet has established so far are universities, billing payments, but I haven't really seen it getting adopted in online purchases. The next category I have is carrier billing. So we've talked about carrier billing before, you've seen the flow. Like I mentioned, one of the key advantages of carrier billing is no user registration needed. From a security perspective, PayPal has solved that problem, but one of the sort of challenges PayPal faces is for users that are not active. They don't know their username password. And to go, when you are at the moment of making a purchase, you don't want to take the user through a forgot password or forgot username flow. You've lost that sale. In those situations, payment methods like carrier billing, where there's no registration needed, add a lot of value. We saw one way in which the carrier billing works. There's another way, sort of another approach where I've seen in other countries where carrier billing works. The user is shown a page, is shown the order ID and a short code where he or she can text. So instead of sharing the phone number with the payment provider, the user is asked to send a MO, mobile originated text to a specified short code. So how do you evaluate various carrier billing providers? So one of the things that I would recommend to look at is the type of carrier connections that the provider has. How many intermediaries are there between the provider and the carrier itself? What kind of relationship does the provider have with the carrier? Often cases carriers have very stringent rules around the type of merchants, the type of goods that can be sold through carrier billing, and so having this relationship to navigate through decision makers with the carriers adds a lot of value. Other factors include, can you do dynamic price points? Can you do $5, $5.99, $6, or are you restricted to certain price points? Does the provider support subscriptions? How does the settlement work? How does the settlement back office or reporting infrastructure work? As far as the rates go, this category of providers that have direct connections with the carrier are able to offer low teens rates in low teens. Some of the non-DCB or PSMS based providers provide rates in 30 to 50% range. And then again, it varies widely with carrier and country. The next category that I have is landline billing. Again, similar to carrier billing, the user doesn't need to go through a registration process. The way the flow works is, there are a couple of variations that we have seen. In one sort of instance, the user is asked to call a premium number, and when the user goes on the merchant flow, the user is shown a number to call, shown the order ID that they need to punch in when they call that number, and the user basically stays on the phone while the minutes rack up equivalent to the purchase amount. In some cases, it's a drop call base. The user calls a number, enters the order number, and drops the call, and the purchase is made. In some cases, the user is asked to enter the phone number and a piece of PII. In many cases, we have seen the last 4 SSN being entered to complete the purchase. Again, the way to evaluate these providers is look at the carriers, the country coverage, and the features. The rates vary quite a bit based on the billing. It can be anywhere from low teens to 30%, and here are a few of the sort of providers that I have interacted with. So the next category is very fascinating, the prepaid cards or cash category. So the way it works is, the user goes to a retail center, retail store, uses cash or whatever the payment method is, gets a prepaid card, and then goes to the merchant website and enters that 10, 16, or 18, whatever the case may be, digits on the merchant web page and completes the purchase. Has anyone here heard about Rixty? So Rixty is a fascinating company that is leveraging the distribution and the products that Coinstar has already established in the retail center. The way it works is the user goes and basically dumps all the coins that he has on the Coinstar, and after the machine counts, the user is given an option to get the credits in various ways. And with Rixty, you get a coupon code that you can use on the merchant site to make virtual purchases. In some cases, the other options that you see on Coinstar machine are Amazon, or an ability to actually get the money back and then you pay fees to Coinstar machine. Here are some other prepaid card options here. Especially internationally, some of these prepaid cards are very popular. For example, PaySafe card is extremely popular in Germany and Greece, and I know they've launched their product in Mexico and US as well, though I'm not sure how well it is doing in the US. MyCard is doing very well in Taiwan. When we were processing at OfferPal, when we were processing transactions for some of the merchants, some of the games that were very popular in Taiwan, we added MyCard, and the transaction volume just, we saw a multiple fold increase in the transaction volume. The last category that I have over here is offers. So the way offers work, or the incentivized offer space works, is there are basically 4 parties involved in this ecosystem: the advertiser, the merchant, the network, who's basically providing these offers to the user and to the rest of the ecosystem. The user completes an offer on the network. So the offer could consist of either doing a survey, completing signing up for a service, or downloading an application, viewing a video. So when the user completes that action, the user is given the coins or the subscription, whatever the user is purchasing on the merchant side. The incentive that the advertiser has, the provider takes a cut of it and then passes the rest of it to the publisher. The fees that we typically see in this space are about 10 to 30%, and in many cases, the publisher has no idea, how much they are getting from this, what percentage the network is keeping for itself. It can be very opaque. The way to evaluate these providers is, look at the range of the offers that the network provides, what kind of categories do they provide, the number of offers, and the optimization techniques. The optimization is a very key thing in the offers network. You have to sort of figure out, what kind of offers has the user taken in the past, what kind of offers in the merchant where it is being shown, what is the propensity of a user to take a certain offer. Here are a few companies, Tapjoy, Peanut Labs. Peanut Labs specializes in survey offers, trial pay, game coins, and super rewards. So, here are so we've looked at all these categories at a broad level. So as a merchant, you then look at your traffic, look at your user behavior, and now you decide that you need to integrate with, 2 or 3 of these categories, 2 or 3 of these payment providers. Then how do you optimize your integration? So here are a few sort of guidelines. It is really important to have a very well designed, descriptive payment wall. So here's an example of a well-designed payment wall. You tell users, here are a few options. You give a brief description or icons to describe what they are. And here's an example of a poor implementation. You just throw all the payment logos over there, and the user is completely lost. And if I'm new to Skrill, if I don't know what Skrill is, there's no quick description to tell me what it is. I have to go through a couple of flows, then I say, this is what this is, and then you go back and you either go through it, complete the flow, or you go back and select a different payment option. Do a lot of A/B testing. The order in which these payment methods are shown has a huge impact on the total throughput from the payment wall. The other thing, that I can that I like to recommend, is invest heavily as a merchant, invest in flexible back office system and a detailed reporting system. As new payment methods get added, it just becomes a mess on the merchant side to get a consolidated report from various payment options. Each one has its own way. You can't expect the accounting team from the merchant side to log into 3-4 back office systems of the providers and consolidate themselves. As a payment provider, the lesson for us is to have have different ways in which we provide the reporting to our merchants, not just having a console, a UI-based console where the user can do the search and sorting of the reports, but also provide a backend server data feed, which the merchant can go integrate with their backend system. Some of the basic targeting tips, geo-targeting is a must. If you want to use click and buy in Europe, don't show it in the US for a merchant for a user who's coming from US. And leverage the past experience of the user. One of the things that we have seen is there's a lot of stickiness of the user with a certain payment method. If a new user comes to a site, you'll see the user, for a couple of transactions, try a few different payment methods, but once the user establishes himself with the merchant, he'll stick with a payment method. So, there's no point in, if somebody's going to use carrier billing, no point in showing other payment methods. Just, show them carrier billing and then optimize the experience for them. That's all I had. What I covered is all the payment methods that I have seen in the online space. What I'm interested is how these payment methods will become efficient or get disrupted as mobile payments pick up.